What's good, YouTube? It's me, your boy Squiddy, back again with another video. I know it's been a while since I made a TCG one, so this is actually a Sky Striker going second deck recipe for the current TCG format. I think it's a lot of fun right now because everyone's playing like Revenge and stuff, but this deck is just like super good that you can play a lot of hand traps, and it's just like very good at grind deck. Obviously, like the monsters themselves are +2 every turn because you get Kagari and Shizu. So the goal of this deck is just to whittle down the game state with your hand traps going second, and then just have an array or a rose, and usually like you just control the game from there just because you go infinite pluses. So yeah, without further ado, in the deck, I played 3 Ray, 3 Rose as well. The reason why I ended up playing 3 of this is because I feel like this deck bricks a lot. Like, if you don't see a monster, you're like basically a sitting duck. Even though you stop your opponent, on the next turn they have follow-up, right? So you just have to get in your engine ASAP, and these are just like good starters. This card obviously is not very good drawing because like a lot of times they just bounce it with like a Heavenly Seal or something. It's really easy. It doesn't have like the tag out effect that Ray does, so unfortunately it's not great. Also, when it goes to the graveyard, you don't have Ray in the grave. But if you're going second, you generally want to dump Ray ASAP, so a lot of times you just dump Ray with high octane. Even still though, I would play 6 just to open them. Obviously the bricks, still playing the Phoenix engine. I think it's like super good. Even though Fusion Destiny's at 2, you can still make Verte Anaconda, you know, with the monsters with Hornet Drones. There's a play where if you have Ray and Hornet Drones turn 1, you can make Phoenix Enforcer as well as Shizu, so that's just like super powerful opening. And then for the hand traps, it's like literally like half the deck, I'm telling you. 3 Ash. I tried to play like hand traps that are 2 of each, so that way you don't draw multiples, because a lot of times, like if you draw multiple, with this deck you have to have like a perfect hand, basically. Like by perfect, I mean you're like a mixture of 2+ hand traps plus like a Ray or a Rose. And drawing like multiple copies of 1 just makes it so you have 1 hand trap instead of like multiple, basically. So that's why I only played the 3 Ash, because I think this one's just like the best card. It stops basically everything in the format, you know, Fusion Destiny, etc. It stops Enchantress, so I think you have to play 3. And then I played 3 Veiler because it's not once per turn, obviously. 3 Imperm, same sort of logic. This one's obviously very good going second. You can draw it for your 6 card, use it against Phoenix Enforcer, or use it against Griffin, Wonder Griffin Rider. And then 2 Nibiru, very good, but again, I just wanted to play like to be able to draw like the hand that has a mixture of defense, so you can actually play it out. Because 1 Nib a lot of times is not good enough on its own, so it's better to have multiples. And then double Phantasma. This card's kind of interesting. I think it's super good because it fixes your hand in this deck. Obviously, you want to draw Ray, Rose, and more hand traps, and also it shuffles back to the Destiny Hero bricks, so that's kind of funny. This card's obviously not very good against like decks like Flunder that are actually really good in the format. I think it's a super underrated deck, but even still, it's really good against like everything else, you know, like PKs, good against Dragons, good against Prank Kids as well, good against Mirror Match. So I just thought I'd try it, and it also helps you dig into your deck, so it's really good. 2 Ogre. This card is obviously very good because it stops Fated Adventure. Other thing is it works against things like dragons, you know, like the field spell, Boot Sector, Dragon Ravine. It also stops the Flunderies map, so very good card. Obviously don't want 3 because it's once per turn. Same with Ghost Spell. This card I think is very underrated. It stops a lot of things. Against Prank Kids, it stops both of the links, Bark and Cockadoodle-Doo, which is very awesome. A lot of times they play their hand in a way to get the 3 names to make the fusion guy Battle Butler, and then when you go spell, they just go like -2. It's crazy. So very good card. Also stops Sanguine, you know, against Eldritch, and stops Ice Dragon's Prison, which is interesting. Stops Kagari, stops a lot of stuff against dragons, stops like the Boot Sector that summons from grave, you know, like it stops a lot of cards. So yeah, very good, I would say. Also stops Phoenix Enforcer and Scythe, you know, when they put it last on the chain. That's it for the monsters, the hand traps. And then for the spells, I played 3 Widow Anchor, self-explanatory. Also played 3 Chalice as well. This card's kind of interesting. I was originally making like Lancia and other hand traps, but I found that this card is just like better. It's a spell card going second. It's not once per turn. And the problem with Lancia is like a lot of times it's awkward. If you go first, you don't know whether to shotgun it or not, because, or if you go second, like blind, you don't know whether to shotgun it or not, because it's like, I don't know what I'm playing against. Even if I do, like they play their turn differently because they know they're under Lancia, so it's like it's kind of an awkward card. So I'd rather just side it and like make sure to side it in against decks that I know it's good against, like Dragons and PK and, you know, Flunders when I'm going second. And then for the engine, engage, afterburners, 1 shark. I don't think you need 2, just because like you want to maximize hand traps. This format, hand traps are super important. You really need like 2+ hand traps to play. So just cut down cards that you don't need. 1 multi-roll, really good going second, obviously, because you can reset everything, and a lot of times it's how you can deal with your follow-up. And then 1 Hornet Drones. I don't play Field Spell or Terraforming. I think that the card's just not very great. I'd rather play hand traps and To me, like a third copy of Rose is just better because it's just like one card you can open. Fusion Destiny, obviously still broken. Reinforcement of the Army, and then Pot of Desires. Still really, really good. I think you can draw 2. Obviously, you can play Pot of Prosperity as well if you have it. I think that could be a possibility. But the deck itself has like basically like 11 starters. You know, if you count 3 Ray, 3 Rose, Rhoda, Hornet Drones, and then the double Fusion Destiny because like it lets you play, and then maybe Pot. It'd be 12 if you consider that. So yeah, that's the main deck. It's 40 cards. Super standard for the most part, except for the hand traps. And then the extra deck is also very tight. 3 Kagari, 3 Shiz, 2 Hayate. You cut the third one to play Predaplant. And then obviously 1 Zeke, 1 Kaina. Super, super good cards. The Hulk package. I think this really good, obviously, end games. You can maybe try cutting it, but it still comes up for me. So I think you need to have it. And then Predaplant and Phoenix, which are really, really good cards. And that's it for the extra deck. Side deck is kind of random. I know it could definitely be a lot better, but these tokens. I play 3 Cosmic. It's mainly for back row decks, and then 1 Harpies Feather Duster, and then also 3 Imli. These are like all for back row decks. I don't really side them against PK. I don't think you have enough room because it's better to just side hand traps, I think, like other hand traps against PK like Lancia as opposed to like this because it's very awkward. It doesn't matter. It doesn't do anything if you get Scythe Lock because they have a lot of stuff engraved, so they just kill you on the following turn. It's more for like back row decks, I think, but I think these you could probably play around and cut some of this. It's like kind of overkill for back row decks even still. And then obviously 3 Token Boy. I think it's really, really good because a lot of people are still playing Sword Soul and there's like a Tenny combo with they're going into like Halcyon or Aurodon more often, so this just comes up. There's some decks that just make like Aurodon, I think, on its own as a combo. So this is just really, really good. 3 Lancia, obviously, it's really good against a lot of decks right now. Flanders, PK, Dragons, so I think it's good to have. And then last but not least, just third copies of these hand traps that I think are like probably the best hand traps right now after like the, you know, Ash, etc. This stops a lot of things versus dragons, like the field spells. It's a 1-for-1 trade versus monsters. It stops Flunder maps. Also against like DDE, it stops like a lot of their pendulum effects or like their contract spells. This card is obviously generically good against like every combo deck in the format, so I think it's good to have the third one just to hedge if you know what you're playing against. Yeah, that's about it. If you guys have any suggestions, let me know. I haven't really played the deck a lot, so if you have any ideas, definitely leave a comment below and make sure to like, subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Deuces.